museum pub crawl.
Yes, today on a New Orleans podcast, we're going to be back in the studio in a second to host the rest of the show, but we're starting off here at the Bulldog. Check out our social media. You'll see what beers we're drinking here, and we're making it out of the Bulldog, and we're going to head on over to the first museum right now.
So what museums are we seeing today?
You'll find out in a second.
All right, before we talk about all the fun stuff we did the past weekend, we have to do how we start every show.
Trivia. So our trivia question today has to do with our topic, which is museums, and it has to do with the oldest building in New Orleans. What is the oldest building in New Orleans? I did some research, and there was some conflicting information, but I called up a historian, well, he's a tour guide who does history tours around New Orleans, and she set me straight, but I kind of figured this was it also. But end of the show.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, but before we get into the beers, this show we're going to spotlight the entertainment that we invented something called Museum
Pub Crawl.
Museum Pub Crawl. And before we started the pub crawl, we decided that we should, pre-game. So we stopped by Bromart on Magazine to sort of pick out what beers we're going to cover this week.
So we're at Bromart today trying to pick out what local beers we're going to use this week in our podcast. Well, Bromart Uptown has such a big selection of beer here, but I think Richard's already decided which beers we're going to use. What are we going to drink, Richard?
We got the Tin Roof River Rose. It apparently has beets in it. An ale with beet exact color.
Oh, that sounds delicious. And so what other beer we're going to do? Two from Tin Roof, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing the Tin Roof Blondie. So it's a blonde ale. And it's pretty good.
Well, we'll talk about it more when we get back to the studio. But remember, all this beer is at Bromart, or if you're on the North Shore, the Quista Paste has it. Rouse's has many of this, but you can find these beers all over town.
All right, and here are the beers that we were looking at tasting today.
We have Tin Roof out of Baton Rouge, and we have their Blonde and their River Rosé. But a little bit about Tin Roof Brewing is it's two guys. It's in Baton Rouge, not far from campus, LSU's campus. And like so many breweries, it's because one of these guys was in Colorado, lived there for a little bit, and he decided, after tasting a bunch of microbrews there, comes back to Baton Rouge and says, there's not a whole lot of good microbrews or good beer around here.
It seems like a similar origin story of a lot of our microbrews.
Yeah. And so they said, we're going to start one. And then the other guy, he's a lawyer, and he was in Europe. I guess traveling around Europe, wherever he was in Europe. He had the same thing. He's tasting all of these different beers, loving these beers, and he comes back and he's like, we don't have any really good beers here. And so they got together and they formed a Tin Roof Brewery in November of 2010. I think they formed it before then, but that's when they started selling their beers. So we have two of their beers here, as you saw, we picked out at Bromart.
Yes. And we were checking some of their events they have online, and they do have happy hour yoga where you can drink beer and do some yoga.
Yeah, sort of at their brew pub or their garden area where they... So, yes, they'll have... And I checked it. They don't have happy hour every day, but they do have happy hour often. And then sometimes they have happy hour followed by yoga.
Yes.
Yeah, so... And I'll go to the happy hour. I've never done yoga before, and I don't know, is it frowned upon as a spectator sport? If I have a few beers for a few hours there and they start doing yoga, can I watch?
I just want to work off the beer gut that I'm getting from trying all these beers.
The people that are doing yoga, I'd rather not embarrass myself.
I don't know if I can fit in the tight pants
doing
anymore.
the backwards dog or whatever it is we'll be doing over there. But well, we can go ahead and start opening up these beers. This one right here, the River Rosé. And what they say here is what happens when two brewery owners, the brewers and a beer salesman get together to drink and they start talking about wine. So they got this idea from wine. Mm-hmm. They made this beer because they wanted a refreshing, fruity, easy to drink quality of rosé to a saison, yeast fruity with spicy overbites. And No, that all sounds really good. When we bought this, and as you saw in the video, when we bought this, all we could really get from this was River Rosé, and we got that it was a beer that had
an ale with beet extract color.
yes,
And
we bought it anyway.
we didn't get to pour it in the glass, so I'm very interested in how it looks in a glass, especially a Saints glass, because every beer looks good in a Saints glass.
So yeah, because it's beet color that they use to make it look
I haven't
reddish.
had beet in a while, but
Yeah, that was not a good pour.
yeah, I don't see the beet so much, but
No.
we did drink this beer and the blondie.
As
all
you
through the
saw,
pub.
as you will see, we drank it some on the pub crawl. But we'll go ahead and here, just take the can.
Yeah, I'll take the cancer. Save it for the next one.
So let's go ahead and start drinking this one. We'll open up the blonde in a second as we talk about some of their other beers. What do you think?
It does have that wine taste, which if you do like wine, this might be the beer for you. You know, when we were talking last episode about the people who only drink 3% wine during Saints games, this might be a good beer for a Saints game if you're a wine drinker.
Yeah, and as we said, we drank these beers throughout the day on our beer pub crawl. And so we already know what they taste like. This isn't our first time tasting them. But as I start going through the list of beers they had, a few of them grabbed my attention. These are the only two that they had in stock at Bromart. But I was looking at these other ones like, I'd really like to try these, such as the Voodoo, which is the Juicy Hazy APA.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Voodoo is a heavily dry hopped American pale ale which relies on flaked wheat oats to enhance the tropical and fruit flavors provided by hops.
Well, I know how much you love your fruity beers.
Yeah, it has melon, passion fruit, tangelo, pine flavors, aromas. You know, and then some, you know, the hops. You know, so that one sounds really good to me to try. So I would want to try the Voodoo. Drink.
Yeah, Voodoo sounds really delicious.
Another one of their beers is the Mancado. I'm trying to say that with a little mix.
Mancado. It didn't sound like you took a class for that one.
It's a Manchado. So the Mancado is a Mexican coffee style stout.
Ooh,
I do like my stouts.
Now this one I did like a little bit more, but I'm not so much of a wine drinker.
This one, the description reminds me of Honey Nut Cheerios.
That's a good description.
No, not the taste, but it says flavors and aromas of whole grain cereal, honey, and hints of caramel shine through. It's the honey of an O. So let's try it.
Let's try that. Yeah, that one is definitely a good. This was a really good walking beer for us.
Yeah. And I did say we did drink more of these than of the other one.
During the heat, I would choose this one over.
As you'll meet Henry later in the show, just for a second, he did love the River Rosé more than the blonde. I do like this one, but as I was saying, I like both of these, but their other ones just sounded so much better, and I wish they would have had it. Such as this barrel-aged Smiling Ivan, which is a Russian Imperial Stout.
I like that Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah, and it comes in, the bottle is cool. I think it had the wax top on the bottle. But it said, this is our famous Smiling Ivan that has been aged in bourbon barrels for close to a year. The result is a sweet oak bottom flavored Russian Imperial Stout. That just sounds great. It says Ivan would be proud. So I'm not sure who
that is a great description.
But also the Voodoo, I should jump back into it for a second, won awards. It's an award-winning beer. They have the medal, you'll see right now on the screen. It's in Colorado, the Great American Beer, or I forget what the name of the contest was, but it's a contest I've heard of. Yeah. And they won a gold medal at that for their Voodoo Juicy Hazy beer. So great job, but you know, this is our brewery this week. Tin Roof. Go check out their Voodoo beer. Go check out the Yoga.
Yeah. Yoga beer. So for entertainment, there was a lot of choices to pick from. We had the Fried Chicken Festival.
Yes, which I wanted to go to after we did the drinking and the walk-in, but it would start raining.
Yes, and then we also had NOLA on Tap.
Yes, which is a natural for us. NOLA on Tap. It's just so many beers that you can try and taste. But we decided to go with the free one, which was
our museum pub crawl with the free tickets from the Smithsonian.
Yeah, the Smithsonian Institute. Every year they have a museum day, and I'd say about 8 or 9 museums locally participate in it, so you can get in for free with it. They only let you choose one museum. But if you have more than one email address, you can go to all the museums.
And it's each ticket's for 2 people, so we were able to have a lot of fun.
Cheap
date.
Cheap date. Not that we're dating. But no, it's a cheap date. And we think that this is going to be an annual thing with the pub crawl. But there were so many museums to choose from, and we actually did not make it to all of them because we chose to drink between museums. But we'll get to all that. But we think this might be something we do more often. So we're going to call this our first annual museum pub crawl.
All right, we're here at our first museum. Where are we going?
We got the Southern Food and Beverage Museum. Also inside here is, you see that, the Cocktail Museum.
Definitely.
So we're leaving the bar, going to the Cocktail Museum.
And you know us from our show that we do love nice drinks. So this is our museum.
Let's go in and see what they got.
Welcome to the Southern Food and Beverage Museum. To your right, my left, is Tube South. It's a restaurant that has a full bar and food. You're welcome to bring a snack or a drink into the museum. We are a food and beverage museum after all. On the right-hand side over there with the red wall is our Museum of the American Cocktail. It culminates in the Absinthe Gallery. And the museum itself is self-guided. It's done state by state, so you can see the green signs. And feel free to pick anything up as long as you don't break it.
So at this museum, it was pretty interesting because you could not only touch everything that wasn't breakable, but you could eat and drink while you walked through the museum.
Yes, they have a bar. They have a bar and a restaurant. So the first thing we did was grab 2 cocktails and New Orleans original cocktail.
We have Sazerac.
So we got 2 Sazeracs to walk around the museum with.
I will tell you, during the pub crawl, all of our drinks were all New Orleans and Louisiana.
Yes. So as we went through the museum, the first part, it's actually 2 museums in one. It's the Southern Food and Beverage Museum, but it's the Cocktail Museum. So we headed straight to the cocktail part.
Yeah, we did that first.
Yes, they had a huge hurricane made with Southern Comfort, but I thought our hurricanes were a rum drink, but it was a Southern Comfort hurricane. We stood next to that and enjoyed our Sazeracs. They had absinthe there. They had a little absinthe area of the museum, which... remember, they don't sell absinthe anymore.
Yeah, and it was really interesting, too, is they had some guys cooking up oysters on their designed reusable oyster shells.
Yeah, not only did they have a restaurant, they had a little kitchen that they do for the tourists or anybody that's in the museum, show you how to prepare dishes. And we walked right in there, and we didn't see them prepare the dish, but we did walk in time to eat some free oysters. So we had Sazerac on one hand, and we had some, I don't even know what kind of oysters they were, but they were delicious.
Yeah, they were really good. So we came at the best time, apparently.
Yeah.
We got free food and some drinks.
Yeah, so we ate our oysters, and we continued through the museum. So we continued and saw some old classic New Orleans liquors in there, some Schwegman stuff, and other ones. They did not have Canby black and green label.
Maybe you'll have to make a donation.
That's not happening. If I ever make a donation, there'll be empty bottles or color water, like I used to do to my parents' bar when I was little.
Yeah. I also everything in there was the old paper bags, the Bromarts and all the breaker bags, even had Popeyes things where they showed you all the...
Because there's the food, the Southern food. And it wasn't just Louisiana food. I mean, it's Southern food. I guess it's anything south of the Mason-Dixon line because they had West Virginia there, which... was a very small part of a food exhibit because I lived in West Virginia and they had pizza rolls and that's what West Virginians eat. But we kind of skipped the rest of it because the only relevant food is New Orleans and Louisiana food. So, you know, they had red beans, they had the Popeyes, like you just said, snowballs, you know, just it was a really good experience to go in there. I really enjoyed this museum. I enjoyed the fact that most museums you gotta be quiet and not, you know, but here they told us we could pick up everything as long as we don't break it.
Yeah, and that was really exciting. It was really, you could really feel the history, and it was a lot of stuff where you were as a kid going, I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember
Schwegmans and the snowballs, and you know, it was a really great museum. I suggest, you know, locals, you go to that. I mean, it's so nostalgic for people my age, and people your age too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just to look back and see the New Orleans culture and things that have come before. Because without food and cocktails, you know, all we got is jazz. No, we got a lot more than that. We have a lot of history and heritage. As you'll see in some of the other museums that we didn't get to, but on our website I have a list of all the museums.
Definitely.
So what did you think of that museum?
The cocktail one, I would definitely go again. I think it would be it's a really good one to take your parents and stuff. Because like you said, this is that nostalgia where it's like, I remember this grocery store, or I remember this bottle. And then even too, they even have cookbooks on sale there, like old style cookbooks.
Oh yeah, it's like for $1 each. They had a bunch of cookbooks there, in those Southern cookbooks, and they're all $1 each.
And if you're thinking about a date, you can be loud, you can bring in drinks, you can try foods and stuff. So it's a very hands-on, laid-back museum.
The date's hands-on or the museum's hands-on?
The museum's hands-on.
Okay.
I don't know. The Sazerac was kind of strong.
So, and I will say it was a very good Sazerac, but not as good as Josh's from last week.
Josh's.
Okay.
You've ruined me, Josh, on Sazeracs.
So then we moved on to the next museum.
Here we are at the World War II Museum, our second stop on the beer pub museum crawl today. So I still have my beer.
Definitely. I finished mine. I'm sorry. But this is obviously one of the most popular museums in New Orleans. Well known, with the addition of Tom Hanks giving tons of money to it. Also brought some national spotlight to it. But we're going to see if it lives up to the hype.
Yes, and of course the World War II Museum is the most famous museum in New Orleans.
Yeah. And before you even get into the museum, they have things going on. Like we saw these guys putting together and rolling out one of those big guns.
Artillery pieces, yeah.
Yeah, these young guys, you know, dressed in, you know, the authentic, you know, World War II gear. And just the crowd gathered around. So you didn't even have to pay to get in the museum to do that. Not that we paid. We got in free.
Yeah. Or they also have 2 World War II vets that sit there and tell you awesome stories that are really cool. It's really exciting. But I would definitely say do this one last or spend the whole day at it because it is very sobering.
Yeah. I mean, granted, we had the pub crawl / museum thing going on. But even after a few beers, you walk through that museum, you're just like, holy crap. You know, just what these people did for freedom, did for our country, did for, you know, all the countries that were affected by World War II. It's just something. And I've been there before. You've been there before?
Yes, I've been there many times.
Every year you go back because it's growing. I mean, it was only one building when it was 2 buildings when I went, but the second building wasn't finished. Now they have the second building, a third, fourth. I think they have 4 or 5 buildings there. They have the Victory, I think the cafe, what's it called?
Yes.
The Victory Theater.
And then they have Beyond All Boundaries, that's narrated by Tom Hanks.
Yeah, the 4D movie.
Yeah, that one's really awesome.
That wasn't free on this day, so we'll have to go back.
Yes, definitely. But one thing I did like, I've noticed they've added this year is a lot about how African Americans and Japanese Americans, even though African Americans were segregated at this time and Japanese Americans were put into camps, how much they were such an asset to the war.
Yeah, even being discriminated against, how these marginalized people just gave everything for our country, which when we get into news, we'll meet one such person from World War II.
Yeah, and they were some of the best fighters. There was that was that fighter group that's
the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yes,
The Tuskegee Airmen too, who the fighter pilots or bombers, I forget what they were, but they were integral to the war. The Tuskegee Airmen, and those were all African Americans.
Yes. So it's really good. They've added a lot more. They're able to now, with all the buildings, focus on each campaign instead of like a quick run through. But they've got videos. They've got. You feel like you're in the battle of the bulge, like with the ice and the
it is immersive.
trees.
You're walking through there, and you're walking through a jungle. You're walking through a kitchen. You're walking through all these different areas. It's just these other museums we went to were really nice museums. It's more or less the next one was really, really good too and put together. But most museums that are free or are in New Orleans are just these big rooms with a bunch of stuff in there, display cases and shelves. But this one and the next one we're going to talk about that we went to are just immersive experiences. You're walking through it, and it was so crowded. It's actually the second most popular museum in the world. It's also the second most popular museum in the United States. So that means number one is the people who threw this museum day. The Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. is the most popular museum in the world. So, but number two museum in the world,
It's pretty good.
in New Orleans, and it's the official national World War II museum.
Yes. And I mean, you go in there and it's very New Orleans because the first thing to your left is a Higgins boat
Yes.
that was designed and made in New Orleans.
And that's part of the reason why it's here, because the Higgins boat was so integral during D-Day, which we're not going to get into the history. Neither of us are history majors. But it did on D-Day, gave us a way to get the soldiers to the beaches semi-safely, because if you've seen the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
But another reason why it's in New Orleans is because Dr. Stephen Ambrose was teaching at UNO, and he was the foremost, utmost respected historian when it comes to World War II. I knew him personally because I used to shoot his telecourses. I used to work cameras for his telecourses, and the stories he told would have me, I'd always mess up. I'd mess up my cameras because I'm watching him and not watching what my job was, because just the way that he told stories. He wouldn't say that, Ike once said that blah, 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 blah about the war. He'd say, when I sat down with Ike, this is what he told me happened. And I was like, holy crap, he sat down with Ike. He sat down with all these, Nixon and, all these people that were around throughout history with different things. So, especially with World War II. So, yes, New Orleans is where it belongs, the World War II Museum. And, I'm proud to have it here.
Definitely.
I'm going to tell you, these other museums are going to make you happy. You're going to have fun going through them. You're going to learn a lot of things. This museum's the most powerful one. You're not going to walk out of there happy and dancing.
Yeah.
But you'll walk out of there, if you've never been there before, you can walk out of there changed and with a new respect.
And I mean, we had to do it in an hour because we had several museums to go to. But
luckily, we've been there before.
Yes, but this is definitely an all-day thing. This is not hey, let's go do this at 10 and then go eat lunch at 11. No, this is like you should plan your day out to go there.
So everybody goes to the World War II Museum. Now we're going to lighten things up because we went to a good variety of museums, and this next one will show you how far we went away from the World War II Museum.
Yeah. All right, we're at our next museum, and I've got my fresh beer.
Yes, you can see the beers that we're highlighting this week. And now we're going to go see some bugs. Museum number 3 and beer number...
Do you think it
whatever.
pairs well with the Tin Roof cricket?
I think it may pair well with a roasted cricket. Let's hope they have some.
Yes. So as you can see, our next museum was the Audubon Butterfly Garden and Insectorium.
And I brought my kids there years ago, and I'm not going to say it changed a whole lot since last time I've been there, but without my kids, Henry was there with me, but he's a lot older now. Without my kids, I enjoyed it. I liked, going through there and looking at the bugs and, seeing different things. And I mean, it gets a little adult at times in there because there were two...
there were two beetles doing the birds and the bees.
Yeah, they were making a little ring go.
And some kid, I remember some kid said, that's how Mardi Gras beads are made. And I was just like, sure.
Yeah, that's because they're colorful beetles.
Yeah, because they were very colorful beetles.
But a lot of creepy things you'll see in there. The ants and the other ones, especially the roaches.
Oh yeah, they had a lot of roach facts about New Orleans.
Yes, they did, and And just showing, because we all know roaches here. I mean, I've seen roaches so big that you could put a leash on them in this city. And that one little exhibit that you see the video right now of the roaches crawling around the kitchen and walking on the walls, that looks like my first apartment in college. The roaches aren't quite that big, but...
Yeah, definitely.
I had to eat their leftovers.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was very immersive too. Like you went underground and to the worm exhibit, and they had like a bug pop out of one of the walls.
And it wasn't just bugs. They had mud bugs. They had that really coolly colored mud bug in the beginning. They discussed some alligators. They had P-Rose.
They had the blue shrimp.
Yeah, and the P-Rose that you can get in and pretend like you're in the bayou. Down the bayou show.
I think the best thing was the worker there's facial expression when we tried to climb into that P-Rose.
The facial expression when I tried to climb my big ass out.
Yeah, that dude went in the other room.
There's like no insurance for that. But Insectarium encourages you to use all 5 senses as you explore North America's largest museum devoted to insects and their relatives. You'll discover why insects are the building blocks of all life on our planet. Along with the way, you'll be shrunk to a bug size, wander through a mysterious Louisiana swamp, join the active audience of an awards show for bugs, by bugs, and be captivated by thousands of butterflies in the Asian garden, voted a top museum for you and your kids by CNN.com.
Oh, really?
And I love the butterfly part. And I guess that's a kid thing, but it was so cool because all the other bugs are behind glass. You couldn't touch the bugs.
Yeah.
Granted, they tell you beforehand, be careful of the butterflies,
Yeah, you don't want to hurt them.
Yeah, you don't touch the butterflies touch you.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Butterflies are landing on people. I could get some really cool photos of butterflies. Butterflies are just beautiful.
Yeah, I was saying that they should have a restaurant in there because I would sit there all day and eat around butterflies.
Yeah, well, they did have a restaurant sort of in the back, and it's a restaurant where they serve bugs.
Yes, we were able to try cricket cookies.
Yes, we tried the cricket cookies, and they did pair well with the
they were delicious.
With the Tin Roof Rosé. But there's other things that they serve sometimes there. They encourage you to eat bugs. Well, in some other countries, that's what they eat. They eat a lot of bugs.
I actually like the cricket. I thought it was really tasty.
Yeah, it tastes like almond. That's what they said. And, it tastes a little like almond. You had 2 cookies. So.
Yeah, I was about to eat them like chips. But, that's why I had trouble in the B row.
But no, that's another one I suggest. If you've never been to the museum, I guess you could be creepy like us and go there without kids. or bring a niece and nephew, or bring your own kids if you have one. But it is an experience. And it's part of the Ottawa Nature Institute. The aquarium and the zoo weren't included on the Smithsonian thing, but I'm glad that this one was. And I've been to the aquarium and zoo a lot. This one I've only been to once before.
Yes, and it was like the D-Day where you're immersed in it. It was really cool. And the blue shrimp I've never seen a blue shrimp before.
Crawfish.
And the blue crawfish.
Because there's a mud bug. It's a bug museum.
I've never seen a blue crawfish before.
Or shrimp, for that matter.
So,
but after this, we took a walk down Bourbon Street. Enjoyed, because we ran out of these beers. We had to go get more for the show today. And enjoyed a few from another brewery.
Yes, definitely.
And then we headed to our last museum because we didn't have time to make all of them. Okay, so we were going to do 5, but the Cabildo closed early, so... because we were drinking too much, didn't get there in time. So now we're at the Voodoo Museum. We still have our drinks. I'm classing it up with a paper bag. But this is our last stop because it's getting late and all the museums close early.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn a little bit about voodoo history, which is big in New Orleans culture.
Yeah, exactly. And
See you.
See you inside. All right, so this museum, I've honestly never even heard of it until you told me that we were going to it that day.
I'd heard of it, but I just figured it was a tourist thing. But that was part of our deal for this pub crawl, is to be a tourist in your own town, be a tourist in our own town. So what better tourist thing to go do is go down to the French Quarter and go to a voodoo museum.
Yeah.
So this was the New Orleans Historic Voodoo Museum. Once you get in there, it's the smallest museum we went to by far.
It is 2 rooms and a hallway.
Yeah, and a lobby where you can buy gifts and voodoo stuff.
Yes.
I would say go there instead of the one on Bourbon Street. This is just off of Bourbon Street.
Yeah, this one was really interesting. There was a lot of cigarettes around. I don't know if that maybe you can comment at the bottom of the video and tell us why, but we didn't know why there was so many cigarettes.
Nobody was smoking in there, but I wasn't sure what cigarettes and voodoo the tie-in was. There was a lot of cigarettes and a lot of money just shoved in different artifacts throughout there. They had a Rougarou. They had a big alligator-headed Rougarou, which, we went to, you went to school down the bayou. I worked down the bayou. So the Rougarou is a thing that people are concerned with.
And we did the voodoo tradition where you roll up money into a letter and you say what you would like
your wish or your praise, and then you have to do a little chant or a prayer and
knock on the wood,
knock on the stump that you shove it in. So Richard did all that, and luckily we used some Canadian currency Henry had on him instead of actual money. We used the loonie.
Yeah, we both didn't have cash on us they didn't take debit. So
that was crowded too. Granted, it was really small, but we had to wait a little while to get into that one because it's just so popular and right off Bourbon Street, and people come to New Orleans, they want to learn about voodoo, and there was a lot to learn about. They had portraits, they had just telling you different things about the history of voodoo, which I didn't know a whole lot about.
Yeah,
I knew a lot about voodoo more than an average person, but I did learn.
Yeah, definitely. It is a really cool one, and like you said, I think you should go see it at least once while you live in New Orleans or visiting. It's a very good, knock it out in an hour and then go get some lunch or something.
Yeah, and even though this is the last one that we went to, I would say that you should go to this one on Free Museum Day. Just knock out these little ones that you probably never ever go to. Mm-hmm. Which we're going to talk about a few more museums in a second after we show one more video where we sign off. But
But yeah, do it on Free Museum Days. That way you can experience it and maybe, learn a little bit more about your local museums. Because there's a lot. All right,
wait. I just realized we didn't introduce Henry to everybody.
Okay, come on, Henry. Come on in.
There's Henry.
This is Henry. This is the son of the one and only Lance Arnold, Henry Arnold.
It's a shame.
And he came along with us on this journey. And what'd you learn, Henry?
I learned that I really don't like hanging out with these two, but they're very funny.
Yeah, and free beer, right?
And free beer.
Free beer. It's a catch-22 hanging out with us, too.
But that's a wrap on the museums, but we're going to talk about a lot more right now back in the Dolison bar.
See you there.
Tavern.
Another museum that we're supposed to go to, as you saw there, we didn't have time for, was the Cabildo. And I really wanted to go there. They closed at 5:30, and we realized at the Bug Museum at around 5:20, we just weren't going to make it. So we went straight to Bourbon Street, then to the Voodoo Museum.
Yes.
But the Cabildo, I've been to as a kid. I don't remember a whole lot. I just remember, but the Cabildo itself is historical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one, they celebrated the signing of the Louisiana Purchase there when the Louisiana Purchase was signed.
You can't get any more Louisiana than the Louisiana Purchase.
It's not just the stuff in the Cabildo that's historic. And, the Cabildo, the St. Louis Cathedral, and the Presbytery all right next to each other, all designed by the same guy. And they're all, I guess, equally old or just about the same age as each other. A new presentation there is New Orleans just last year turned 300 years old. So they had the big presentation on, We Love You, New Orleans, or, in a 300th anniversary, celebrating, 300 years of New Orleans, which, that is awesome. That's enough to go see, which I'm going to go, and I'm going to pay.
Yes, definitely.
Friends of Cabildo, y'all shared our stuff about Museum Day on social media, and damn, I really wanted to get to go see the Cabildo again because I hadn't been there since I was a kid, and I have fond memories of it.
And I really want to see one of the major things that they have is the Napoleon death mask.
Yeah, only 4 Napoleon death masks exist, and it's a bronze mask. So 40 days after Napoleon died, they did these bronze masks of Napoleon. And only 4 of them exist, and one of them is right here in the Cabildo. But other things at the Cabildo, as I already told you, the Louisiana Purchase celebration, of the signing was there. It was the home of New Orleans government. It was home with the Louisiana Supreme Court. And not a lot of people will get this, but we're both mass media people. Mm-hmm. And the Supreme Court of Louisiana in that building were the ones that did the Plessy versus Ferguson case. which is a famous legal case. You can Google it. I'll put the link on the website. We're not going to get into all of that.
Yeah.
So, but Plessy versus Ferguson, I had no idea that took place in the Cabildo. Then the Cabildo turned into the Louisiana State Museum. The Cabildo and the Presbytery are both the Louisiana State Museum. I think that was in the early 1900s, like 1908, 1909, around that area. Mm-hmm. And it's been in the museums ever since then. Now, I know you. What year were you born? I don't even.
92.
92. So you wouldn't even remember this. But in 1988, the Cabildo caught on fire, and I remember.
Oh no!
I was in high school, but I remember it caught on fire, and it just decimated the building. I don't remember the stories how they got the stuff out of there, the death mask and all those things out of there that they wanted to save. But they rebuilt it using the same techniques that they used to build it in the first place, the French techniques. They didn't use modern ways of building, and they rebuilt the Cabildo the same way that it was built the first time. So I suggest come along with us, because I'm going to go to the Cabildo. I'm going to go there soon, just because I hadn't been there in so long, and I'm really upset that we didn't make it to there on the free museum day. But if any of our museums deserve our money, it'd be the Louisiana State Museum. So
yes,
let's support the Cabildo. But there's lots of museums in New Orleans that we didn't make it to, including Cabildo. And a whole list of them is on our website, nolasum.com. So go check that out. Go click on podcasts, and you'll see this podcast, which is the Museum Pub Crawl podcast, episode number 8, I think.
Yeah, we've been doing this for at least 2 months.
Yeah, so go check on those. But a few more I want to talk about. We have a lot of really interesting museums in this city.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk about a few other ones. And one that I've heard about, I hadn't been to yet, but I think, did you go to this one, the Museum of Death?
I have not been to the Museum of Death yet.
I hadn't been there either. But the people that did this, they're not trying to be creepy and all, but they're trying to fill a void on education about death. Yeah, because everybody's afraid of death, and we all have our own phobias, fears, and the ways that we're going to deal with death in our families, or even our own impending death, because it happens to all of us.
Yeah,
that and taxes. So what they have there is the world's largest collection of serial killer artwork, antique funeral ephemera. I don't know what that means. Mortician and quarters instruments, Manson family memorabilia.
That's pretty cool.
Pet death taxidermy, crime scene photographs, and a lot more. Each location, they have 2 locations, they have one in California, is entirely unique, as the museum does not feature any replicas or duplicates of the exhibits. So everything in there is real. If you see a letter from Charles Manson, it's the letter from Charles Manson.
Yeah.
If you see crime scene photos, it's
So if you're really into like forensic files or any of that, or if you, like you said, if you have a fear of death, this might be a good thing to help get over death. Just being like,
or understand
immersing therapy. Yeah.
Children are allowed. Children are not allowed without parents. They do warn you, saying it's graphic. So know that going in. It's not the insectorium.
No.
Granted, there's a lot of death in the insectorium because a lot of those butterflies and things are on pins.
Yeah.
You're looking at a lot of dead bugs at the insectorium, but. This one's all about death. They do say that a lot of people have fainted there and fallen down, and just because of the intensity of some of the exhibits at the Museum of Death. This is in the French Quarter, but that's one that I want to get to.
Now, there's one that really interests me that I don't think many people know about when we did our research and our meeting. This is one we talked about. But the Great American Alligator Museum has piqued my interest. So Robert McDade continued his collection of everything you can find relating to alligators. So this guy has been collecting alligators for years, and now has a museum for
Yeah,
it.
he just collects everything alligators. And we're talking, like the most mundane things like board games and what was it said that he had the largest collection of ashtrays? Alligator ashtrays and salt and pepper shakers. But he's collecting some pretty scientific old stuff. It's like, what was it? The 50 million year old alligator fossil, 10 million year old alligator fossil. So that was like a fun one. Another historic one, and we talked about when we're talking about Sazerac, that was a pharmacist who came up with the Peychaud's, bitters and all
cognac.
that. Yeah, and we have a strong history of pharmacy in this city, which I didn't realize. I knew we had a pharmacy museum, I didn't think too much about it. Like, why is the pharmacy museum here in New Orleans? But it's because the first licensed pharmacist in this country was in New Orleans. His name was Louis J. DeFillo Jr. And the reason why he was the first licensed pharmacist is because we were the first state that required that you have a license to be pharmacist.
Go us!
So that's why that museum is here. So you can learn all about pharmacy. There's a bunch of pharmacy artifacts. A few more. The Wax Museum, the Musée Contai.
The Wax Museum is really cool. I have been there.
I'd been through there once quickly because I did DJ an event on the upstairs there. But the Wax Museum, for what I understand and for what I saw quickly, it's sort of the history of New Orleans in wax form.
Yes.
You know, you'll see soldiers, you'll see plantation, you'll see people dressed in the antebellum dresses, and you'll see probably Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. You'll see a lot of Southern history and New Orleans history in wax form. You're not going to see Samuel L. Jackson in wax form or Tom Cruise in wax form.
No, it's not It's not that.
A few other ones. New Orleans Museum of Art, which is another real serious, beautiful museum in City Park. We talked about that one in our first episode when we talked about City Park. So
it is free for everyone from Louisiana on Wednesdays.
And I'll put a link on novelson.com to tell you more about that one. Also, we talked about a little bit, I think, in another podcast, was Louisiana Children's Museum.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the Louisiana Children's Museum just opened a new museum in City Park. They moved off Julia Street. Now they're in City Park. And I actually received an invitation for the grand opening, which I couldn't go. I think we were doing stand-up comedy that night. So you had the Louisiana Children's Museum. We also had the Historic New Orleans Collection, which I've never been there, but I've seen a lot of things from there. The Historic New Orleans Collection has documents and photos just from all through time in New Orleans. They just expanded into like 13 historic buildings all over the French Quarter. So that's a really good one if you want to learn about the history of New Orleans, or if you're a researcher, because they have the documents that you can go in there and check out. So it's like a library / museum / it just has all the archives.
Yeah, it's really cool. See, there's so much you can do in New Orleans that don't involve just drinking or going to a festival. There's just so much you can do. Just walk around, go visit a museum, learn some cool stuff.
And quickly, just a few more museums. Backstreet Culture Museum. I like this one because it was founded by a guy who was in a carnival crew or at a parade, and he went up to a photographer and said, "Hey, I'd like this photo you took of me." And the guy said, "Okay, that'd be $35." And he just didn't think that was right. That's a photo of me, and you're charging me $35 for it. So he went and bought some cameras. And he just, for years and years and years, for decades, took picture of people at Carnival, made it available to them, but he also made it available to us in his museum, just of all of these photos. So that's the Backstreet Culture Museum. And finally, the last one I just want to mention is the New Orleans Jazz Museum. That's in the Old Mint at the end of the French Market. At the foot of Esplanade near the river, you'll see a big building, and in there is the New Orleans Jazz Museum. And of course, so we got the food, we got the cocktails. Now go see the Jazz Museum. And as you saw, also the stage in there, the
beautiful theater in there. I saw the Bird Food Festival, and it was beautiful. The acoustics is awesome. Like, you're just really comfortable, and honestly, time flies when you're listening to music in there.
And I've been fortunate enough to have in that theater 6 of my films shown in there, along with, because they were all musicians, along with musicians that would play after my films. And it was just, so it's a great museum, and it's a great space. And usually those shows that they have up in the theater are free. With your paid admission to the museum, you can just go on up and see what's going on up there. And it's a block from Frenchman Street. So after you do that, you can go down to Frenchman Street and hear some more jazz and blues.
So we just given you probably 2 months worth of entertainment in one segment.
But go to the website, because there's so many more museums that we just don't have time to talk about. But I'm going to put the museums on there with a list full of links to go find out more about these museums, because for a city our size, we probably got more museums than huge cities. We have a lot of museums.
Because we have a lot of history, and we have a lot of cool stuff that involves the city.
And we have culture. Okay,
but anyway,
that's it with entertainment.
Yeah, let's head to news. Well, since we spent so much time on museums, we decided to only give you really 2 news topics.
2 quick topics.
Yeah.
So the first one, they have something to do with museums, both of them. And the first one is that the oldest living World War II veteran celebrated his 110th birthday at the World War II Museum. So that's what we were referring to earlier, that this gentleman, Lawrence Brooks, was born in 1909 and served predominantly in the African-American 91st Engineer Battalion stationed in New Guinea and then the Philippines. And his job, because as we were saying about the jobs of some of the minorities that were in the military, and so they actually had a big party for him with cake and other things, and they had the victory bells, the 3 ladies that do the singing there, sing to him and right up on him, and I just know if those ladies are right up singing on me, my heart's gonna race. So I really hope he makes it to 111.
Yeah. And on to the next bit of news. The Sazerac House is opening up on October 2nd, and this story is kind of close to me because I will be working at the Sazerac House on the weekends as a tour guide.
Yeah, and real quick, let's watch this video.
You look like you could use a drink. I'll just give you a minute. Once you know what you want, you just go ahead and choose. And if you need me, just give a holler. My name's Marie.
The Sazerac House is New Orleans' latest attraction. It is available for the general public to come and enjoy and appreciate the history and culture of cocktails and how that relates to the city of New Orleans. Each bartender will have its own set of recipes and cocktails that you can choose from and interact with. You will learn about the history and techniques on how to make that perfect cocktail.
Quite a delicious 30 proof liqueur.
As part of the tour experience, you will be able to enjoy multiple samples along the way, one of which could be the Sazerac cocktail, or you might be able to enjoy Sazerac rye, neat.
Well, I really love that you can find out about the history of the Sazerac cocktail, and you get free samples, and so hey, what's not to love, right?
It's like an adult Disneyland. You just go and you tap on the glass and it gives you cocktail recipes you can send right to your phone. You got all these movies going on with all this history. You feel a lot smarter and maybe a little bit buzzed when you leave.
People travel from all over the world, not only for our food, our culture, but drinks. People will become familiar with a hurricane or a hand grenade. Well, you now are coming for a Sazerac cocktail as well.
So, as you know, the Sazerac is the Louisiana state drink and the oldest cocktail. So, there's a lot of history to go with that, and it's a really cool place to be.
Yeah, so it's opening up soon, and, look for Richard.
Not that I'm biased on the story.
So, I think that's it. That's all.
Oh, wait. I thought we had something else we had to do. Was it more news, or? No. Trivia. All right, so are y'all ready for the answer? Well, the answer is the Ursuline Convent, built in 1752.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I did the research, and I had heard that this was the oldest building, and I looked it up, and it said it was the oldest building. But then I found on 2 other websites which claim that Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop on Bourbon Street was the oldest building. Except they said it was built in the 1720s, and Lafitte didn't come to New Orleans to the 1750s or after. So yes, it is indeed the Ursuline Convent. But the most interesting thing that I saw, and I saw this, I've been on a few ghost tours. Just being a tourist in your own town, you should take a ghost tour. Even if you don't believe in ghosts, it's just fun to do, and you learn about history. And in this, they talked about the casket girls at the convent. And what that was is I don't know the complete story, I don't remember it all. But the story goes that these girls were brought over from France, I think. And it's sort of like the beginning of the vampires. Or these girls were vampires. They locked them up on the top floor. They closed the shutters, nailed the shutters shut, and the doors shut up there with the girls because they were evil. And they had the nails that they nailed everything shut with, blessed by the Pope.
Jesus.
And so the girls couldn't come out. So take it for what you want. You'll find a lot of ghost stories in New Orleans that may fall short of the truth, but they're fun. I don't watch horror movies because I think they're true. I watch them because they're interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And there is some scary stuff with the story. No ghosts at all. Like, some of those stories are scary enough.
So, that's it for this podcast. But you know, if you want to learn more about anything we talked about, there's pictures, more pictures than you saw here. There's links to everything we talked about on noasum.com. And you know, you can respond to us. You can, you know, ask us questions. All you do is have to hashtag us
at NOPC.
Hashtag NOPC or hashtag New Orleans Podcast.
And if you would like your beer shown and tasted on the show, make sure you give us a message.
Well, we're pushing that. You know, we like free museums. We love free beer.
All right, that's our show. Thank you all for watching.